Hi, everybody. This is SAAD. I'm between shows, part of the media tour. I'm heading out on a extensive media tour starting tomorrow, but I wanted to take a few minutes to respond to a really big cancel culture tsunami that's come my way. I've been fortunate enough that for much of my career, uh, I've been able to avoid some of this stuff, but apparently it's caught up to me. So a few days ago, last week, I was on Joe Rogan's show, and we were talking about different accents, and I mentioned that we had just returned from Portugal, and made a comment that the Portuguese accent is not an attractive one, and I can't remember if on the show or not I had said that some comedian had said that when you speak Portuguese, it's as if you're having a perpetual stroke. Uh, this is a comedian saying this, joking about a language. And then I said that Hebrew, which is one of my languages, I speak French, English, Arabic, and Hebrew. Hebrew less well these days because I don't practice it much, but many of my family live in Israel. I said Hebrew is a very unattractive language. My wife is speaks Armenian. We often joke and with each other about Armenian being unattractive. Other people will joke about Arabic is like having a constant choking, right? And people will joke with you about that. And then during my conversation, I said, "Oh, but Quebec French, that's an affront to human dignity." And so some Quebec uh, journalist picked that up. He's apparently, I didn't know who he was, but he's apparently the most super woke leftist journalist in Quebec, whom I've never heard of before. He's never commented about me, but apparently it was a capital crime to make a joke about the Quebec accent, and so he wrote a hit piece in La Presse yesterday, because there's nothing more important in Quebec society than to spend all your energy rallying up the mob against a professor who's making a joke. By the way, I'm francophone, right? I learned French before I did English. My kids speak French. I live in Quebec. I love Quebec culture. I haven't left, even though I had opportunities to be in the US. But the auditory signature of Quebec French, I'm hardly the first to say it, is unattractive. Now, many people were uniquely upset by the fact that I said affront to human dignity. Well, that has become a phrase, a trademark phrase that I use as part of my bombastic, hyperbolic humor. So, for example, and I'm going to read to you in a second a thread in my response to the gentleman, the journalist from La Presse, where I took a screenshot of just a few of the cases where I've talked about all sorts of banal things as affront to human dignity. In the same way that I'll say, well, I'd rather, inject Ebola in my eyes rather than, listen to this person speak. Or I'll say, the Beatles are a form of auditory jihad, right? I use the term jihad. And, Muslims don't come after me and say, how dare you say jihad? They understand that I'm using poetic prose, I'm using hyperbolic prose. So the affront to human dignity, I've used it in saying the Beatles are an affront to human dignity. I have the proof in the tweets. Musicals are an affront to human dignity. Justin Trudeau is an affront to human dignity. People who hate Messi, Lionel Messi, the soccer player, are an affront to human dignity. Do I really mean that I am being, quote, racist against Messi haters? People who love Ronaldo are an affront to human dignity. Okay? And on and on and on. It's a joke. Joe Rogan laughs. Many Quebecers have written to me and said, oh my God, it was funny, it was hilarious. Hey, I'm Quebecer. I agree with you that our accent is not particularly attractive. It's the most innocent thing possible. It's me making a 3-second comment meant to be completely a joke that then becomes a national tragedy. I've received many, many emails from Quebec media that for 30 years has never found it interesting to ever speak to me about anything. Okay? But I joked about the language. Now I am the biggest immigrant racist. Go back to your country, Jew. So I'm going to read you uh, my response to that gentleman, and then we can go on. So, I have been a professor for nearly 30 years. I have published innumerable scientific papers and written many best selling books. None of my work has ever attracted the attention of La Presse or of the journalist in question. His name is Marc Cassivi, Cassive, whose tweets are protected. He protects his tweets, and the article, you can't put comments on it. I have defended at great professional and personal cost the foundational values of Quebec and Canada, but this did not attract their attention. I defend la laïcité, I defend le droit d'expression, I defend les droits de la femme. I'm about as socially liberal, defending the values that should really matter to Quebecers at great personal and professional cost. That didn't get their attention. But making fun of an accent, that was a capital crime. I'm arguably the best known globally Quebec-based author, but this is immaterial to them. I don't say that to be immodest. I say that because it's a demonstrable reality. But that didn't matter to my fellow Quebecers. But when I made a hyperbolic, flippant joke about the Quebec French accent on Joe Rogan's show, this finally drew their ire. Mr. Cassivi just wrote a hit piece about me and contacted my university, Concordia. He did not appreciate an immigrant, an Arabic Jew, joking about the accent, which many French Canadians will make fun of as well. By the way, I've made fun of Southern drawl, right? Where I start saying, I'm going down shopping with my dog Roscoe, going down fishing. I didn't get any Southerners coming after me. I've made fun of the Castilian or Catalan, I can't remember which one, the lisp. I have a whole clip on that. Nobody ever came after me. Okay? I make fun of myself. When I was overweight, I used to call myself a beached whale. I didn't come after me. It's called humor. It's called sarcasm. It's called satire. It's called hyperbolic prose. It's called, that's why I've got millions of followers, because I provide knowledge. I have fun. I'm playful. I can make fun of others. I can make fun of myself, all in an innocent, playful way. But it is now deserving of 24 straight hours of some of the most incredible hate mail that you can imagine that a person could receive. My children are afraid. This is the kind of society you want to live in? Anyways, let's go on. He did not appreciate my stating that the accent is an affront to human dignity, a hyperbolic, jocular sentence that has become one of my humorous trademark phrases that I use on innumerable occasions. I've referred to Messi haters in this manner. I've referred to musicals in this manner. I've referred to the Beatles in this manner. And then I included a screenshot with all of the tweets that I've written, or just a subsample where I'm saying this is an affront to human dignity. This is an affront. That's what hyperbolic prose is. That's what makes it funny. You exaggerate how much you're disliking something. This meal that you made for me, dear wife, is an affront to human decency. I have a friend who told me he loves when I say that. That's what humor is. But it isn't when your entire identity is rooted in one particular metric. Then it becomes a capital crime. All right, let's go on. Mr. Marc Cassivi is a journalist. He could have written about endless topics of substance, many of which I cover in my books and public lectures. But no, he chose to write a hit piece about my unacceptable opinion of the Quebec accent. By the way, I didn't say anything about Quebec culture, which I love. I didn't say anything about Quebec society, which I love. I didn't say anything about some of the culture, Quebec cuisine, some of which I love. I made fun of the most extreme form of joual. That's it. It's like saying you're making fun of the Appalachian accent, that it's jarring to the ear. That's it. Nothing more. Go watch it on Joe Rogan. That requires a investigation with all journalists coming after me and sending thousands of people to say, go back to your shithole, Arab. That's nice. Let's go on. But no, he chose to, okay, In doing so, he has unleashed a torrent of threats and hate messages from many unhinged people. Let me alert thee, and I tag the police, about the very real danger that Mark Cassivi and La Presse have unleashed. Incidentally, Mr. Cassivi quoted our private email exchange in the article, and in doing so violated journalistic ethics. The authoritarian reflex is an indelible part of the human condition. In some cultures, you are killed if you criticize a religion. In other cultures, you are reported to your university if you make fun of an accent, and then you spend 24 hours receiving the most unbelievably hateful, insulting, racist comments. Both stem from the same insecure dark reflex. Instead, be secure, be playful, have a sense of personal dignity, be happy rather than being mired in endless emotional incontinence. And now, lest I be dragged to the gulags, let me say this in French. Monsieur Marc Cassivi, votre article est un affront à la dignité humaine. Salut. I only wish that La Presse would publish this rebuttal in their paper. A strong culture should be able to withstand humorous mockery, as I explain in my international bestseller, The Parasitic Mind, which I'm going to read from in a second, which the newspaper and the journalists in question did not see fit to ever cover. I had a book that was, one of the top best-selling Canadian-based, Quebec-based books around the world. The Quebec media wasn't interested in it. I was defending all of the cultural values that make Quebec a great society. They weren't interested in that. I made fun of the accent as a francophone, and I was the biggest racist who ever existed. Arab Jew, go back to your land. I should also mention that Marc Cassivi mentioned in a completely irrelevant manner my links to Jordan Peterson, Tucker Carlson, and Fox News in the article in an attempt to make me guilty by association. Oh no, I'm friends with Jordan and Tucker. I must be a Jewish Nazi. Salut. And here what I'm saying is that this super woke journalist who apparently, hates the guys like Tucker Carlson and Jordan Peterson is basically saying, hey, if you don't hate him enough because he joked about the accent, then you should hate him because he's associated with the evil dark overlord Jordan Peterson and Tucker Carlson. Now, before I go on, I just want to read something this is from this book right here, which the Quebec media never saw fit to ever. This is international bestseller, #1 best-selling book that talks about Western values, that talks about the defense of Quebec values. They didn't find that interesting to talk about. But I made fun about Quebec accent, French accent, not the people, not the culture, not the society, the accent, okay, which many Quebecers themselves make fun of. That was unacceptable. No Jew is going to make fun of our accent. So let me read you something here. This is from Peter Stolterjig. He's a philosopher. Quote, how much truth is contained in something can be best determined by making it thoroughly laughable and then watching to see how much joking around it can take. For truth is a matter that can stand mockery, that is freshened by ironic gesture directed at it. Whatever cannot stand satire is false. All of the people who are sending me those hateful messages should remember that quote. The La Presse should be ashamed of itself. Marc Cassivi should be ashamed of himself. In a proud culture, people are not driven to genocidal hate. Again, you should see some of the stuff that I've been receiving because someone made a joke about your accent. Here's what you do with my joke. We don't care what God SAAD thinks of our accent. Just like I receive endless comments that are much more offensive, and I move on because I'm strong in my personhood, because I fight for real things that matter. Individual dignity, freedom of speech, a culture where you don't have to run and hide because you've made some silly joke that you've made in a million other contexts for a million other issues on the Joe Rogan show in Texas. But apparently making a joke in Texas, I'm still responsible for having hurt the feelings of Marc Cassivi and some of his independentist friends. This is not the way to organize a society, right? I ran away from this in the Middle East precisely because if you said something that wasn't right, if you weren't of the right religion, then you would be ended. Well, do we want to live in a society where someone makes a joke and their career can be ended? They're afraid to go outside. Is this the kind of society you want to live in? Because today they come after me, tomorrow they come after you. And then we stop joking, and then we stop saying our ideas, and then we stop communicating with each other. Okay? This is not a healthy reflex to have. Quebec society is a proud society. The way that it should demonstrate its pride is to say, hey, some people love our accent. Some people think our accent is an affront to human dignity, which I said jokingly. And they go, haha, funny. Well, we think that Gad Saad's accent is silly. And then they move on. And then we hug it out and go for a beer or for a coffee. But instead, on a day when I should be fielding a million media, which I am now, I have one in probably 15 minutes, media about my latest book, The Sad Truth About Happiness, being happy, being joyful, leading a meaningful life. Instead, I get people, I mean, you can't believe the things they're calling me. You can't believe the things they're saying about my children. This is because I make a joke about your accent. That's what a proud society does. Quelle honte. Take care, everybody.